Okay, cool. So, right now we don't have we just want to work on whatever you guys have questions on.
Uh-huh.
So what topics are you both learning at school?
Uh,
Well, right now we're on loops.
Okay, you're on loops.
Mm-hmm.
And Dia?
We just started loops last week, and generally we'll spend a couple of weeks working on the topic, and then we'll move on to a new one.
Okay. We can do some review of loops, yeah. Dia, is there something you want to cover?
we are on switch now, like switch and break.
You're also
Like we work on computing tags using a switch and uh, break. For me, it didn't really work for me while I'm trying to with switching, which is case, we working with case
working,
and yeah.
working with cases? Is that what you said? Okay, so which one? We can cover both, and it'd be helpful for both of you guys to cover both. So let's pull up the ebook.
All right.
I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, I posted the link to the ebook, and I'm going to go off that right now. And I can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Sometimes the sound will cut in and out.
So yeah, let's cover loops. So how about we start with going over like what the three different how to construct a for loop. Okay, so how do we construct a for loop if we want to print like the 10 times table, for instance?
Well, you start with the for and then open parentheses.
Okay.
And then it's declaration of the variable, of one variable.
Okay,
And
so
then
that's
condition.
okay. So in our case, if we want to print 10 times 1, 10 times 2, 10 times 3, all the way to 10 times 10, how would we go about constructing that? Where would
So, let's see.
where would I start? Where would my variable start at?
So you would start with like in X.
Okay. Yeah, and we want to set this equal to 0, right?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I mean, loops are like a table, right? Like I read about it, but I think we didn't reach that part. But when I was reading, it's kind of like a table. I mean, like each has their own column, right?
I can't totally hear you. They're like a what?
Like a row and a column system. I mean, it's just my logical guess. I don't really know about loops.
So let's go over quickly what loops are in Java. You're right, you can use a loop to go through the rows and columns of something, but there's a broader way to use them. Okay, so Anaya, do you want to explain to me what the difference between a for loop and a while loop is?
Loops and what?
Sorry, there's a spider on my wall.
Okay, so can you explain to me what a loop is?
Basically, a loop is a statement that has different conditions, and those conditions will execute every time until you have the condition that you state either becomes untrue, and they'll just stop.
Yeah, so you'll keep going through something and iterating through until you reach your stop condition, and that's when you exit out of your loop. So that's exactly right. So yeah, does that make sense, right? We want to repeat something and change like one variable, and you keep doing that until you eventually like reach your stop condition.
Oh,
So we can give an example. So, hi Meg, we're going over loops right now.
like I don't understand. It's kind of like the music looping, right? Like when you play with it, like there is icon called loops, and it's just gonna repeat until a certain time that I mean, certain time that I assign.
Me?
And I understand it that way.
Yeah, your mic is very low and I can't hear what you're saying. Could you type your question?
Oh, all right. I mean, you can continue while I'm typing.
Okay, sure. So we were just going over the differences between a while and for loop. So can someone tell me how I write a for loop?
Wait, how you write a what?
A for loop? Like what is
Parentheses, and then you start it with what you want the variable to start at, so int I equals 0.
Okay.
And then comma, or no, semicolon. Whatever the limiter is, or I guess limiting part of it is like where you want it to like end before. So I less than, I don't know what we're doing this for, like, I don't know, whatever dot length maybe.
Sure.
And then another semicolon, and then I++, so you know, keep it incrementing up while you know.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so let's quickly write a program that just prints out like the 10 times table. So can someone like dictate to me so like exactly what you just said, but that's our condition now. We want to print up till 10 times 10.
And if you guys ever have questions, feel free to just like stop us or to put it into the chat window so everyone can see.
Okay, so we were just writing, so this is like what we want to print, and we want to print until 10 times 10. So how would I go about writing my for loop for that if we start at 0? Yeah, anyone? Sure. Go ahead.
Is someone else talking, or?
No, go for it.
Okay, so I guess if we're starting x at 0, then the next one, I mean, there's nothing 10 has to be less than, does it? So what would you do for like the middle one? Like x is...
Yeah, so when do we want to stop printing our 10 times table at 10 times
x
10?
equals 100?
X equals 100?
Well, like x is less than or equal to 100.
Okay, so yeah, we want x to, what do we want x to be? And we want it to be the factor we multiply by 10 each time. So that's what's changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if our bounds are to print the 10 times table until 10, what would that's when we would stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do we want it to be 100 or do we want it to be 10?
10.
Yeah. So do I do less than? Do I do less than or equal to?
Less than or equal to.
Okay, exactly. Yeah.
We'll try.
Okay, that's right. So less than or equal to 10. And then we want to increment x, right?
Mm-hmm. X plus plus.
Perfect. So what does x plus plus do?
It makes it move up 1 every time.
Okay, and that's called the post increment, right? Have you guys know the difference between pre-increment and post increment?
Yes.
So what would, if I were to do this? Or if I did plus plus x versus x plus plus, how does that change things? Does that change things?
It does change it, but I don't know how.
So yeah, pre-increment means that you're going to increment the value of x before you use it in your function.
Okay.
And then you're going to use the current value of x as is and then increment it after you've used it once.
Okay.
So if I were to do pre-increment right now, even though we said x starts at 0, it would go through and increment x before we even used it to 1. So it would print 10 times 1 first. So we want to print 10 times 0. So we want it to go through our for loop and then increment x.
So it'd be x plus plus.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that part.
Yeah, so does someone else who thinks they get it want to explain?
Well, so when you go through the loop, initial values, and after it executes every statement in the loop, it'll go back and it'll increase x by 1.
Mm-hmm.
It'll
Versus,
keep doing that until your condition, which is the middle, the one in the middle, until that becomes false.
okay, yeah, and versus, so does that make sense?
I mean, x plus plus is x plus 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, since it's x plus 1. But plus x is, what is plus x?
Yeah, so Anaya, do you want to explain plus plus x? Does someone else want to explain plus plus x? Okay, so plus plus x means you would increment x before you go through your for loop. So in this case, we want to start at the value we initially set it to, which is 0. So we want to increment x after we've gone through the body of our for loop. If we were to do plus plus x, it would increment x before we start our for loop.
So yeah, so like plus, yeah, sorry. Hey guys. So plus plus x and x plus plus are still adding 1 to x and setting that equal to x. It's just a matter of when it does it. Either before or after, based on whether you put the plus or after the x.
No, I mean, I'm confused.
Sure. So with this is not part of the problem, right? But if we did like x plus plus, right?
X
So
plus
this is the
it's before.
same thing as, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the same thing as doing this, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to use whatever x is now, and then we're going to add 1 to it. So we're going to use x, then set x to x plus 1. If we did plus plus x, we're going to set x to x plus 1, and then, and then use x.
Oh, so it would be, I mean,
So,
the value would be
so
the
like
same, right?
x equals 4 right here.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to say int a equals this and int b equals that. So what does a equal if I wanted to print out, if I wanted to like print a, what would it equal? If I wanted to print b, what would it equal?
I mean, a will be equal to 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
But b would be, so wait, b would be like 6. Are we gonna use the integer from the above one?
Well, actually, b would be,
5.
yeah, it would also be 5. But I see why you might say that, because we're setting a to that new value of x plus 1, right?
Yeah.
But here, x hasn't changed in between, remember?
Oh, all right. So it would be 5.
Mm-hmm. So it'd be 5.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead.
So since the value of this, the value are the same, so why don't we use plus plus x instead of x plus plus x?
Sure, that's a great question. So Sana was just talking about how in the loop, right, you like do the whole body of the loop, right?
Yeah.
And then you come here and then you come back up and you increment x by this much. So if, so we're still incrementing by the same, by 1, but in this case, if x started out as 0, which it does, the first time we go through the loop, what will x actually equal?
It's x equal 1.
So the very first time, what would it equal?
The first will be like 0, right?
Yeah, exactly. So in this case right here, where x is 0 and we're doing x plus plus, what does x equal? It equals 0, right? That's right. Now, what if I change this to plus plus x? What is x now the first time?
So 1 plus. Still would be 1. I mean, still the first time it would be 0. Yeah.
So it actually wouldn't be 0, because what this is saying is before I ever use x, I'm going to add 1 to it.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's the pre-increment idea. So if this was how we set up our for loop, and this was our incrementing factor, we would increment by 1, which is the same as before, but it would increment before we actually use it. So the first time we go through our loop, x would be 1 instead of 0.
Thank you. I get it now.
Okay,
Great.
awesome.
Nice.
Cool. That's a really good question, and it's kind of tricky. Yeah, when we get to arrays, we'll talk more about that. But yeah, really good question.
Okay, cool. So let's continue on with the body of our for loop. So if our goal is to print the 10 times table, something like that, what should I be printing? Bia, do you want to take a guess? Is anyone guys, is anyone there? Can you hear me? Can I hear you? Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I posted.
Hey guys, can anyone hear me?
Yeah. Yes. What'd you say?
Yeah, so do you want to finish writing the body of the for loop?
Okay. X times 10.
Yeah, and you want to print that, right?
system.out.println quotes 10 times x, or x times 10, or plus
yeah, x.
x, and then
Yeah, so plus x.
plus x. Oh, and then you just do like 10 times x. Like that's just what you print.
Yeah, and you want to put that in the string too, right? So equals 10
times x.
plus 10 times x. Okay, cool. So x will change after like each, it will go through, start at 0, and then print 10 times 0 equals the result, and then increment by 1, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's go over while loops. So how is a while loop different from a for loop?
It takes like a for loop's like an easier, faster way to do a while loop.
Yeah, so there's less like condition. Like there's with the for loop, you have like the 3 statements that you need to include in your for loop. With the while loop, you only have to include 1, right? So what is that one?
Is it what like x is like less than, or?
Yeah, so usually it's you're gonna compare your variable to something, but like when does the while loop stop?
It reaches the end.
Okay. Yeah. So exactly. So you wanna in a while loop, your condition, what you put after the while loop is going to be a Boolean expression that results to true. You guys know what a Boolean expression is?
It's true or false statement.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So basically, you want to put something after your while loop that equates to true, and then you enter your while loop, and then you execute the body of your while loop, and then you have the increment. So in a for loop, we put the increment on top in the statement of the for loop. But usually in the while loop, you put it at the very end of your while loop. So now like in this case, you've decremented the example, the variable of x.
Okay.
Now it starts off at 3. So while 3 is greater than 0, print x, and then decrement the value of x by 1. So now the next time we go up, what is x going to be?
2.
Yeah.
Or
perfect.
1. Or
It'll
1,
be
0, 1, 2.
Yeah, it'll be 2. So how many times in this example do we go through our while loop?
I don't think it stops.
You don't think it stops?
Actually, JK, JK.
It stops once it gets to 0.
I see it in x equals 3, so I was like, oh, I guess it just keeps going.
Yeah, so when does it stop?
Gets to 0.
Okay, when x equals 0, yeah. So what is this going to print?
Oh, 2, 1, and 0.
Yeah, does it print 3? Or did you say 3?
No.
It doesn't.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it'll print 3. So what, yeah, can you tell me what prints the whole thing?
Wait, I don't get that part. What you say?
Yeah, so just take me through what this function prints.
It doesn't print 0, right?
Let's figure out. So what does it start off as?
Oh, it will start with 3.
Okay.
So for the system of X, and with that, you print 2 and 1 should be 3 values.
Yeah, so you said it prints 3, it goes to 2, enters the while loop, prints 2, then it becomes x equals 1,
Yeah,
it
and
goes
then
into the while loop.
so when you put 1 in the statement, it will be 0. So
Yeah,
this
so then x equals 0, so it doesn't enter the while loop.
because X is X is greater than 0, right? I mean,
X is not greater than 0. So is 0 greater than 0?
no,
Yeah, so does it enter the while loop?
yeah. If we're
So,
greater than or equal to 0 will be printed, but not for greater than only.
sorry, can you repeat that?
I mean, it won't print because it's just greater than 0. If it was greater than or equal to, it might get
Mhm.
0.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So it isn't greater than or equal to, so 0 is not greater than 0, that is false. So we don't go into our while loop.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Let's go to the next example.
So this is good.
Yeah, let's run it. Yeah.
And something really cool about the online book is that you can run these examples and check them for yourself. You can even change them. So kind of what you were saying, Vina, if you changed it to x is greater than or equal to 0, what do you predict is going to happen this time?
Including 0.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to print 0 at the very end because when x is 0, that'll evaluate to true. X is greater than or equal to 0 will evaluate to true, and we'll enter the loop again, or enter the body again. Cool.
Okay, so what do you guys think this for loop prints?
It's an integer x
It just
equals
prints X.
1.
Why don't you all put your answers in the chat?
Yeah, do you guys want to each tell me the final result of the for loop?
Yeah, whatever you think it can be.
Oh, on the chat?
Yeah, just put it in the chat.
Alright, next one. Is equal to- Hmm.
Okay, Bia, do you want to put your answer?
Well, I'm writing it. Sweet.
Okay.
Got it?
Okay, cool. So yeah, both of you guys are right. Yeah, it's gonna decrement. It's gonna basically count down from 3. Will it or will it not print 0?
It won't print 0.
How come? Why won't it print 0?
Why? It's
Mm-hmm.
because it's just greater than 0, which mathematically it doesn't include 0 because the inequality sign doesn't include 0.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Okay, yeah. So let's check it out. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So now, what would happen if I were to do this instead?
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys can tell me what. Yeah. Do you want to put in the chat what would print out?
All right. So start with my subtracting from 1. I'm not sure, but can I just answer something?
Yeah.
All right. Which will be
Hey Maya, we're just going over this example. If you want, can you tell me, if you can put it in the chat, what do you think this for loop will print?
Let's see.
Okay. Wait.
Will it just print 2, 1? Or no, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Yeah, so let's just run it and see for sure.
Whoa. How? I was just thinking about 2-1 first.
Okay, so this is showing an error. You guys are right. It should only print 2, 1.
It's 2-1 or 3-2-1?
No, it should print 2, 1. We'll write this down as an error, but you guys are right.
So the reason why
So it should print 2, 1?
Yeah, it should print 2, 1. You guys are right.
so the reason why it only prints 2-1 is because it will start with subtracting from 3, which doesn't really include 6.
Yeah.
Wait, this should print 3, 2, 1. Yeah, why not?
No, minus.
Oh.
So we're just, yeah, it should print 2, 1. Yeah, you guys are right. Because, like you said, why? Okay, let's move on from that example.
We'll figure it out and let you know.
So what are the advantages? Like when would you use a while loop instead of a for loop? Or when would you use a for loop instead of a while loop?
Or y and 4? Are you comparing y and 4?
Yeah, so when would I want to use a while loop instead of a for loop?
I'm not sure.
Does anyone else want to take a guess?
Oh, I think I can take a guess.
Sure.
So while would be like assigning it, like saying it if so just take that something will be in this condition while you're working with that equation. That makes sense.
So you said it would be in the condition. What is that? What do you mean?
So if, for example, on the example that I'm looking at, so if int x equal 5, try to find the numbers using the argument, the argument x equal to x minus 1, while x is greater than 0.
Yeah.
What would be like a condition to start
There
working on the argument? It's just complicated guess.
Yeah, that's a good guess. Yeah. I think you're on the right track. So let's look at comparing. We're trying to do the same thing with a while loop and with a for loop. So in this statement, what are we printing in this while loop?
Which one?
In this one? The while loop, what are we printing?
Oh, we're printing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, yeah, let's check. All right. And then what are we printing in the for loop? Below.
Huh. I'm not sure.
Okay, so both the while loop and the for loop print the same thing, we just wanted to show you that you can achieve the same thing using both a for loop and a while loop. So when would I want to use a while loop? If they can both do the same thing, what is the advantage of using a while loop in certain situations?
I mean, I don't want to take a guess. I mean, I just want to.
Anyone else?
Yeah, does anyone else want to give it a shot? Like, when would I want to use, what is the difference between how I wrote this while loop and how I wrote this for loop? Can anyone else want to take a shot? Okay, I don't know if they can hear us. So you would want to use a while loop when you don't know how many times you want to run the loop. The difference in the way you write a for loop is that you know for a fact that you're going to run this for loop 5 times. But in the while loop, you aren't sure. You just know of this one true statement that you're gonna run your while loop until that statement becomes false. So you may not be sure how many times it will take until that statement is false. Does that make sense?
Oh, can you repeat for 4?
Yeah, so for the for loop, we knew exactly when we wanted it to start and how many times we wanted to do it until we stopped. Like, we knew when we would stop, right? We would stop when x is greater than 0. No, when x is not greater than 0, right?
But for while, you know, we stop.
Wait, can you? Do you want to type your question instead? Or just like background noise?
Okay. So in the meantime, I just want to explain the thing that we had earlier with the post and pre increment. So, all right. So in this example, we thought that it would print out. Can you guys see this? Yeah. Okay. So we thought this would print out 2, 1, right? Because I had said earlier that what this does is subtracts 1 from x and then does the body of the loop. So I really apologize, that's false. So the reason that, so you can do minus, you can do a pre or post, it doesn't matter. What this is saying is that at the end of my for loop, so when I reach this last brace, I'm going to do whatever it says right here.
Okay.
So for a for loop, it shouldn't matter whether you do the pre or post. So this
And that's only for for loops.
That's only for for loops, yeah.
Okay.
So the example I was trying to explain was, say for example, I wanted to do, let's go back up here to the while loop. If I do this, or let me do this, this is probably more intuitive. What do you think will print out this time? If I add this plus here. So we know that it prints out 3210.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But this time, if I add the plus, what's it going to print out?
Won't it just keep printing out 4?
We'll just keep printing out 4. So the first time, it would print out 4, right? Because x would be 3.
Mm-hmm.
But the second time, what would it print out? Because the second time, yeah, go ahead.
You keep printing 3.
We keep printing 3.
Yeah, because it's first we added and then start subtracting on the last statement. So you get.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so let's try and run this. Do you think? So it'll just keep printing 3 or 4. So the very first time, right, x is 3. We are inside our loop. We come down here and we print out, what do we print out?
X plus 1.
Well, what number gets printed out?
3 plus 1, which will be 4.
So that's actually the difference here. So if I do this, what's going to print out is 3. And then it's going to add 1 to 3. And so now x is equal to 4. But then we subtract 1, right? So now x is equal to 3. And then we come back up. So I think someone had said it, maybe Anaya, but I think it will print 3 forever. And it might actually crash this thing, which is a bad idea. Okay. I think I might have crashed it. But yeah, what it's going to do is print 3 forever. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Print
just
out 3 forever? Why will it print out 3 forever?
Because what it's going to do is print out 3, then it's going, so remember what I wrote earlier where it it's going to print 3, it's going to use 3, and then set x to 3 plus 1. And down here, x is going to be 4. X is going to be equal to 4 minus 1. There's 3. And then it's going to come back up, and since 3 is always going to be greater than or equal to 0, we're just going to loop forever. Oh, look, the output printed. See that? 3 forever, unlimited 3. Okay, but now, so we did that example, so cool. We know that that's definitely not what we wanted to do. But now what if we plus x? What will that give us? That's the question, right? So how does the pre-increment differ from the post? So this time what's going to happen? We're going to add 1 to x, right? So 3 plus 1. And then we're going to print x. You can see how that kind of works? But this time, what's happening? What do you think will print?
I think it will be the same.
Think it'll be the same? So I have x, so I'm adding 1 to 3, so I have now x is 4. So it's going to print 4, right?
Yeah.
And then it's going to say 4 is equal to 4 minus 1, or sorry, x is equal to 4 minus 1, so x is 3. Yeah, so the outcome is actually the same. So I'm not going to run it, or maybe I will, just so you can see. But yeah, it ends up printing 3 forever. But do you see how the difference, like how that difference works? Yeah. Because this is your question. It's a good question, but like, we'll like have a better example when we get to arrays, just because it's more obvious what we're doing. But with strings, it's kind of hard to show. But okay, I hope that helped, and I really apologize for the confusion on that.
Yeah. So let's just wrap up by going over when to use a while loop versus when to use a for loop. Ooh, yeah, wait, I'm gonna have it. So here, right, so we print the same thing in these two for loops, but one we do using a while loop, one we do using a for loop. So the best time to use a while loop, like we can read above here, is that when you don't know how many times you're going to do something. Does that make sense? Because how is that different than in a for loop?
Can you repeat the question? Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so in a while loop, we don't know how many times we're going to execute something. But in a for loop, do we know how many times we are?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we specify, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so a for loop allows us to specify exactly, where the variable starts, when it ends, and how it changes. But in a while loop, all we can specify is some state, like some true Boolean condition that eventually will be false. So we don't know how many times it will take until it's false. So a lot of times when you're coding, you need to be careful. You might infinite by mistake if you don't, make the stop condition eventually. Okay, so that concludes our topic on loops. I hope that was helpful. Do you guys have any last questions?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, sorry we got confused on the whole plus situation. But it's definitely more obvious when we do it with arrays than with for loops. I also got confused doing it with for loop. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Okay, but I think, we went over how to write the for loop, how to write the while loop, and we went over being able to do the same thing with both, right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So, any last questions?
I mean, if we have, do you think we have a time to if I have some long question?
Yeah, let's try it.
Oh, I just want to see the switch. I mean, changing the computing tags. If it's about if condition. It's about if condition. So when you compute tags, we're gonna work with if and else, right? And then we can switch that to case statement using switch and break, right?
Yeah, you're right. Let me pull up the ebook once again.
And I tried to do that, and then it doesn't really work for me. I just I feel like I make some simple error. I mean, it compiles, and it runs, but it doesn't really calculate the amount of tags for the different amount.
Yeah, so let's go over it.
This is using the case statements.
Yeah,
It already worked for me.
Okay, yeah, let me quickly find an example. Yeah, okay, let me find an example real quick. Or do you have an example?
No, I'm far away from everything. I'm using my phone.
Okay, so you want to know when to use a switch statement, when to use an if-else. What is the exact question?
But my exact question is, if you find the file for computing task, computing task, tax.
Tax?
Yeah, computing tax.
Okay.
Compute tax. How? I mean, what was my error to find? I mean, to change it to case statement, which would be switch and break.
Okay, so
How do you change it to the if condition and the if statements and the if conditional statements to case systems, like case statements?
yeah, so I think a switch case is best used when you don't know your input. And so you need to make sure that you have all the cases accounted for. So you're going to have some number or some variable that you switch on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think all right. I think I'll be fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Let me show you this example that I found real quick.
I mean, I'll ask you on the group me if I didn't do it tonight.
Yeah. Okay. I can show you real quick though what I found. So here's an example of some switch statements. So here again, we're using a for loop, right? And instead of having if-else statements for what I can possibly be, you have switch and cases. So you're switching every time I is something else, you're going to enter a different case.
Okay.
So the first time we go through this for loop, I is what?
So I was 0, and then
I is 0. So what happens here?
you mean case first, the first case.
The first case? But I is 0.
So the first case will be you're asking me the what we output, right? I mean the
Yeah.
Let me see. So we have
Would it be the default case?
Yeah, why would it be the default case?
1 plus I. What was 1?
Hmm?
1, does 1 have value? So 1 will be 0.
No,
Right?
so one would be like you're switching on the cases. So here I starts off, you just told me, right? I starts off as 0.
Yeah.
So we go into our switch statement, and like it says in the comment, we switch on that number. So right now we switch and we look for a case 0, and there isn't one. So then what do we do?
Oh, we're gonna skip that and then go to another one.
Then we go to default.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we print default case I. So then our for loop, what happens next?
It's just default will be printed out.
Yeah, so then what happens next in our for loop though? So we print it out default, and then we go back up to our for loop, and I is now what?
Oh, yeah, you're right. So I is now less than or equal to 2.
Yeah, I is 1, right? So
Yeah.
I started off at 0, and then we did I equals plus 1.
Plus 1 is 3.
No, so remember this is the stop condition. So this is what we're doing to I. So I started off as 0. We entered the switch. We found the appropriate case, which was this one,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Printed default case plus I, and I was 0. So then what did we do?
So we go back to the switch and the number. I mean, we're gonna find values, different values using the argument that I less than or equal to 2, and I plus, which is I plus 1.
Yeah, so we go back to our for loop though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what after this for loop, what is I the second time around?
I would be more than 2. Right? 3, 4.
No, it would be less than 2, right? Remember, this is I is less than or equal to 2. I started off as 0.
I started with 0, so 1. Oh, it's just 1. So it will be 2.
Yeah. So now you do switch 1. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then what we would go into this case, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, yeah.
Okay, cool. So then what happens when we break?
So break is just, it will stop over there. And if it goes back to the loop and check another one, and then other cases will be printed out after the break.
Yeah, so then I would be 2, and we'd switch 2. And then here it's saying that switch case 3 and case 2 are both, this is the behavior for them. So then we would just print 2 or 3 plus 2.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, I got it.
Okay, cool. So that's sort of a,
Case, yeah. I did kind of case and loop together. We were learning just if conditions and string using.
yeah, so you could rewrite this using if statements too.
Yeah.
I think for me, like if statements are easier to read, but switch statements are also like they make sense, right? This is pretty. This is
makes sense. More logical.
Yeah, they're logical.
Sometimes it makes me really confused. All right. Thank you very much.
Maybe like gave a little bit of clarity.
Huh?
I hope that helped a little bit.
I couldn't hear you.
Do you have any more questions?
For now, no. I was studying on these, so I already got my questions. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Anaya, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for coming. So Bia, I just wanted to quickly say that Mondays and Wednesdays are now going to be only for Sisters Rise Up.
Huh?
The
And
Mondays
this.
are for Sisters Rise Up, and then Project Rise Up, I think, is Wednesday and Thursday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll try to make to be there. I mean, I have a lot of things going on. I mean, I have a lot of things. I mean, that's why I couldn't make it. It's not because I didn't want to. Like
I just wanted to say that, like, I think from now on, I think only girls will be coming to Sisters Rise Up.
oh, on sister
Yeah.
side. All right. All right.
Yeah. So then, you can go to the Wednesday Thursday sessions.
Oh, all right. All right. I got it.
All right. Cool. All right. Good night, guys.
All right. Good night.